Hello, hello, hello. It's Knits for Sanity, and welcome to my WIP Chat. WIP stands for Work in Progress. So grab whatever project it is that you're currently working on, whether that be a hobby, a craft, a chore, walking the dog, and just let me chat with you for a little while. Keep you company. So I'm very happy you're here, whether it's your first time or I think this is actually WIP Chat number 20, your 20th time. I don't know that anyone's actually listened to all 20 WIP Chats, but if you have, I commend you. And I really appreciate you. All right, so if you have been following along, you can see that I finally am making some progress on my Alvana and Cinder painting now. It's been really slow. It's been really slow going, but I am finally now several squares ahead of where I was the last time I checked in with all of you. So hooray! And during that time, I actually did a, for me, really fun video where I did a square. I had my pin ready, but I don't even have any drills yet. Like I'm ready to go. Anyway, where I did a square and recorded the whole time that I worked on that square, which was about an hour and a half, and then sped that up to 10 times speed, which is something I've just wanted to do because I thought it would be kind of fun just to see how that would play out and how long that would take. So it was a very fun video for me to do. I don't know that other people would find it of quite the same interest, but my goal, that was my challenge, was record myself doing an entire square, speed it up to 10 times, and try and make it as fun as possible. But watching it just made me think, man, there are times where I wish I could move this fast, particularly in like this current situation where I wanted to finish this painting on Halloween, and that clearly did not happen. And that's okay. Life did get quite crazy there for a while, and so it was just not possible to get it done. But that is one time where it would be kind of nice to be able to work that quickly. Otherwise, like others have rightfully pointed out, if we could always work that fast on our craft, think about how broke we'd be, because we'd have to keep buying and just exorbitant amounts of crafts to keep up with our addictions. At least now, it takes a little while, so puts a little bit of a rein on our spending. My husband and I just went for a really lovely walk outside, but as a result, I did wait a little while before I started the video, but I'm still kind of snotty. It's not really from my cold anymore. I'm feeling much, much better from that. It's just from being outside with allergy related stuff. And I mean, we live in the woods in a rural area, and so there's always something outdoors that's going to be irritating sinuses, whether it's cold, dry air in the winter or random leaves and stuff blowing around on the ground, which is what it is right now. Not to mention that the weather has just been crazy. It has been it's about 70 degrees outside right now. And it's November 3rd today? Yes, November 3rd today. And it's 70 degrees outside. That is so ridiculously warm. But it has also been quite cold. So this jumping back and forth between the extremes is just brutal on your sinuses, and I'm sure you've been reading about RSV and stuff is really severe. Flu and RSV are already at critical levels, especially at children's hospitals, and we are no exception to that. My father-in-law actually does work at a children's hospital, and they are already at critical levels of kids for RSV in particular. So just, in many ways, we need it to get cold. I mean, not that I love the cold, but I don't like 70 degrees on November 3rd. That's unacceptable. That's my opinion. All right. Trying to think if there's other brief little things that I need to fill you in on with my channel. I don't think I actually announced in a video anywhere that I do have a handle now. I did put up something in a community post, but I don't think I actually brought it up on my channel that now I am officially Knits for Sanity on YouTube. So that is now my handle, which I am thrilled about that I finally got that. So that is one goal that has now been accomplished. And again, thank you, because that's only possible because of my subscribers. So if you're a subscriber, thank you so much. That just really meant a lot to me to be able to get a handle, because I just really can't stand a random URL. It just really bothers me. So now you can actually look up, it's like www.youtube.com/ or is it / at Knits for Sanity. And it should bring you to me, which makes me happy. It's the small things. It's the small things, right? All right, so car updates. Oh, yes. Car updates. Number 1, 9/21. All right, so we called the collision place a couple of days ago to ask about, approximately how long is it going to take for our car to get repaired? Because they were supposed to provide an estimate and they didn't. And so, just kind of curious here. And so my husband called and he made it real clear that, we're not in a huge rush. We're not trying to pressure you. We have a family. We have 4 kids. We're just trying to kind of, plan our lives. So if you have any kind of idea, that would be nice. Well, we're told that they are booking into January. January, people. And he called like November 1st or something like that. May have even still been Halloween. I don't remember. And I just heard my husband say something like, holy cow. But then they did assure him, because he's like, we only have a rental for 30 days. And our rental doesn't hold the whole family. And my husband's car, while it does technically hold the whole family, it's not really road worthy. So we don't do extensive traveling for it. Like, it's good for just bumming around right around here, if you have to run into the grocery store or get kids from school. I feel comfortable doing that with it, but it's not, I'm not going to take a 75-mile trip with it. We'll just stick in the 20-mile radius around our house or so. But then they did say to him, they assured him that it should be done within the 30 days because ours was towed in, I think, versus a car that can still run. So you can book it for repairs, but then still be able to drive it until your repair window comes and then bring in your car, which that was not an option for us. Like when I told my father-in-law when I finally told him that we'd gotten into a car accident, hit a deer, and that then the repair shop was booking into January, but they were hopeful to get ours done sooner than that. His first thing is, can you drive it? And I'm like, no, it had to be towed in. Ours is not drivable. Oh, okay. So hopefully we'll get it back much sooner than what it sounds like it could be. Otherwise, that's going to play havoc with even potentially Thanksgiving plans, So, but yeah, into January. That is crazy. Okay, so the other day when I did my WIP Chat, that was a shorter WIP Chat, and there was definitely a lot of stuff that I had in my mind that I wanted to share. One thing of which is an update on the football team, because last week was the first game of districts for our football team. And, I've been talking about our local football team this whole time because it's something that, for sure, my one daughter and I, we've gone to almost every single game. We did have to miss a couple of them, and it was really my fault because I wasn't feeling well. And other than that, we've been to all of them. And the team has had a really remarkable season, and especially a few specific players on the team they just really had amazing seasons. And districts was this past Friday, and I had mentioned that we were definitely not expected to win this game. Well, middle daughter and I, we went, and I gotta tell you, the first half of the game was really good. It was hard to watch, and I'll get to that, but the first half of the game was really good. Our guys fought like hell. And there was even a point during the second quarter that we were leading, which was really cool to see. I had not anticipated that. So that was really quite awesome. But our boys, the school that we went to go play, technically, we're in the same division, but not really the same class, because where we had to go was into like an actual city. So it's a larger population, but a much smaller district. So what you have then is, you have a lot more money, and it's a more concentrated population. Just a very different type of school and student body from what we have, where we have a super huge school district of almost 200 square miles. And from that, you manage to scrape together enough players to make a team, which in Michigan, for super rural areas, there are just 8-man football teams. So our district isn't so tiny that we can only have 8 guys on the field at a time. We can still do a full player field. So a very, very, very different type of environment, different income level reflected there. And so these boys are, and their head coach has a history of winning behind him. So what I'm saying is the other team played very rough. And when I say very rough, I mean very, very rough. We had a lot of guys that were taken out of the game, the entire game, due to injury. I don't know. I don't even know what the final count was, because Veda and I ended up leaving toward the end of the third quarter, because the third quarter was when things especially started to get really, really nasty. And Veda couldn't handle it. I was kind of sick of watching it. And at that point, it was very clear that there was no way we were winning anymore anyway, because they'd taken out like 6 of our guys and a couple of our key players. So we came home frustrated. And it's not that the other team played illegally. It's just they were super rough. Super, super rough. To me, it just seems unreasonable that in high school you would have this many guys taken out due to injury when none of their guys, we weren't playing so rough as to take out 6 of their guys permanently from the game. But what made it the hardest for this game, for my daughter in particular, is the awesome part about it is her favorite athlete was set up to win most number of touchdowns ever made by a player in our district. He just needed one more. He was tied, and one more touchdown would have given him the new record for the school. Well, it was really cool. He did indeed get that touchdown. But, when you watch like those superhero movies with the heroic ending, that's kind of what this looked like. So he gets the touchdown, arms up in the air with the ball. And I'll put up the picture that our district put up to congratulate him, and I'll stick that in here so you can see it. Arms up with the ball. And then he collapsed in the end zone. Just collapsed. And it was obvious that he was in a lot of pain. He had damaged his ankle. And again, the other team was playing rough. And again, not that they were doing anything technically wrong, but it was hard to watch just how brutal this other team was. But favorite athlete ended up getting booted out of the rest of the game due to injury. But he did get his touchdown in. But middle daughter can't handle watching favorite athlete get injured. She kind of has this history of when he gets injured, she watches until it's like she realizes, oh, he's not dead, essentially. Like, okay, he's not dead. It appears that he's like at least conscious and stuff. And then suddenly she needs to run off to the bathroom. And she's been doing, fortunately, he's not been injured very often, but this kind of started years ago. Let's see, favorite athlete was probably 7th grade at the time, which is the year that Veda is currently in, is 7th grade. So if he was 7th, that means Veda would have been 2nd grade. So when Veda was in 2nd grade, wrestling tournament, it was a home wrestling tournament actually, for the youth wrestling team that they both were on at that point in time. She was watching him wrestle, and she was she tapping for that bout? I think she may have even been tapping for that bout. I can't remember. But he was thrown and went down really hard on the mat and was just lying there, not moving for a while. And we were all pretty worked up about it. His mom was quite panicked. I was very concerned. And Veda was she was really, really shaken. And she's just standing there, just stone cold and stone still. Well, then finally he does start to move and he's able to get up. And then here's little Veda. She comes running by me. I was up on a stage and she comes running down in front of us. And I was actually standing by, I think it was favorite athlete's mom and her sister maybe. I can't remember for sure. But Veda comes running up, looks up at me, and she's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm like, oh, okay. And it was actually, if it was the sister of favorite athlete's mom, she says, well, when the love of your life gets injured, something like that. It was just so funny. So it was really funny that, again, Friday night, favorite athlete gets knocked down and is injured. And then as soon as it's like, okay, he's not dead, then I was higher up because I was still sitting in the bleachers. She comes down in front of me, looks up at me with, that panic look and then just points in the direction of the bathroom. So I'm like, yep, go ahead, and wave her on. So I I don't know what this is going to mean for future things for her. Like, but clearly she has a sensitive bladder. But in the end, I spoke with favorite athlete the next day. Yeah, I think I did. I think it was Saturday. Yeah, it was Saturday. I texted with him, and then I did again just a couple days ago. Sounds like a very severe sprain, which if you've had a severe sprain, you know how immensely painful that can be. And it sounds like he has been in a lot of pain. Now, when I did talk to him, maybe it was Tuesday when I checked in with him again, he did sound a little bit better. He said that he was able to kind of walk and stuff. So it sounds really optimistic that hopefully it's going to be a relatively quick recovery for him. But it was disappointing. I know this was definitely not how he wanted to end his high school football career, was going out on an injury. It was great that he did get that touchdown for the team and for the school and for the district and for him. Like I said, it was kind of that heroic ending. You know, he does it. He does the major feat, and then it's done. It's over. He's out. I mean, fortunately, he didn't die like they do in all the superhero movies. But definitely bittersweet. I know, the thing about a number of high school sports, and football's one of them. Hopefully he will get to play in college next year, but sports like football and wrestling, these are things that 98% of the kids who play in high school, they will never play this sport again. They dedicate so much of their lives. Some of them start playing a sport at the age of 4. And, that's what they do. And they spend hours training and practicing, and they commit a huge portion of their lives to this game, to a sport. And then there's that last game or that last bout or that last tournament, that last match in high school. And then you're done. You're just done. And I think that's really hard. I mean, there aren't adult fun leagues of football that are all over the place. When you're done playing football in high school, you're generally done with the sport. And I think that is really hard. And there are girl sports that are similar, things like competitive cheer. We have a really good competitive cheer team here. But those girls, most of them, when they're done in high school, after that last tournament, they're done. And it's this huge part of your life. Again, some of these girls have been cheering since they were 4 years old. And then that last tournament happens. And it's over. It's just suddenly over. Other sports like baseball and softball, there's always leagues that you can do. You can always run. There's always marathons and races that you can take part in. You can always play tennis. I mean, it's not the same, but there's still the opportunity to play lots of other sports. But then there are those that there just isn't. So bittersweet for the number of kids who were a senior and got permanently booted out of the rest of the game due to injury. That's just not how you want it to end. So I felt bad for them. But like I said, hopefully favorite athlete will get to continue playing next year for college. Although it will be interesting because wrestling comes next. And, wrestling, he's not planning on doing anything further with. And so we'll see how that season ends for him. my daughter, she's going to cry. I don't know that she's going to cry at the time, like when he has his last bout, and you know, it will probably be his forever last wrestling bout. I don't think she's going to cry then, but I am quite certain the child is going to cry. Oh. So that's the football update. What is my dog doing? Alfie?
Yep.
Hold on. I'm back. Oh, you know, the dog was being the dog. He was playing with one of my son's toy cars, which obviously really my son should have put away his toy cars, but regardless, the dog shouldn't have it, so we took it away, and the dog was very upset. The poor dog, actually, this is the second time within an hour that he's been very upset with us, because he was all excited when he saw me head back into my office nook. He immediately came trotting back here, like, yes, time with mom, all right. All excited because he was going to join me back here in my office nook. And then I blocked him out. He was very unhappy. So right now he's sitting just a few feet outside my office nook. And every once in a while, he throws his head back over his shoulder and gives me this mopey look. But here's the thing. He comes back here and then he lays either right behind my chair, so then I back up and I run into him, or he's down by my feet, which is fine if it's not 70 degrees out and my feet are cold. But the real problem is he stinks the place up. Then, you know, he gets comfortable and he relaxes and the gas is released and it is horrible. Just horrible. And I don't want to be gagging and choking on film, which is what would happen because, I mean, we call it love gas because I think I don't know. I think it's our way of trying to live with the situation, but bulldog gas, whew, I know you've heard that it's bad. Guys, it's worse than you could ever possibly imagine. I've lived with dogs before, and dog farts are always bad, but bulldog farts, oh my word, deadly. I think they are deadly. So no, I didn't want him back here with me while I was filming. Now, he's still close enough that if he does decide that he's going to relax and go to sleep where he is right now, I'm still going to be in trouble. But he doesn't generally end up falling asleep there. It's not one of his spots. Right now, I think he's just there because he's ticked off with me. And he's trying to make me feel bad. It's not going to happen. You're not coming back here. All right, so other updates. It was Halloween, and we had a lot of fun. All the kids actually had a good time. I was kind of worried about my oldest because she originally had plans with friends, and then those plans fell through. So that meant she was going with mom and dad, who we were joining up with friends who were going to really the only good neighborhood anywhere near us to go trick-or-treating that has like enough houses in one location to make it work, which is about 12 miles from where we live. And she wanted to join us. She didn't have to. She could have stayed home, but what fun is that, especially? And she wanted candy, So she went with us, and I was kind of worried about it because the other kids involved were quite a bit younger. The next closest was 5th grade, not quite 11 years old. So same age as her youngest sister, but still, she's an 8th grader, And then otherwise, it was 3 first graders and a preschooler. And those were the kids. But she had fun. I mean, she was really all about getting that candy. I'm fine with. She had worked on her costume. She went as a 1980s McDonald's employee. And she, if you didn't catch the story, she had purchased this shirt September, October, I don't remember. And to me, it's just the most ridiculous looking shirt. But she loved this thing. She called it her clown shirt. And I mentioned, looks like a McDonald's employee shirt from like the 80s. And she was like, what? Well, she did her research. She looked it up and was really surprised that when she looked it up, hokey smokes, this shirt is like the shirt they wore at McDonald's in the 80s. And she actually had some friends look it up at school on the bus. Well, so I guess not at school because they can't have their phones at all at school. They have to stay in their lockers. But on the bus, she had a couple friends look it up because she's like, yeah, I'm a 1980s McDonald's employee. And they're like, what? So they looked it up and went, wow, you do look like a 1980s McDonald's employee. So she had done some research and she even fashioned for herself like a little necktie that she added to it. And so she'd worked on her costume. And when kids, I mean, I don't have a problem with anyone who wants to go trick-or-treating. I truly don't. But especially a teen, if we lived somewhere that we actually had trick-or-treaters, which we do not, if a teen came to my door and it was obvious they did spend some real time and thought on their costume, I'd probably give them extra candy. So she did really well, and I was really pleased because she was the one I was really concerned about that she'd not have a nice day. The two girls who were not with us for the evening, they had fun. They both came home excited, happy. And really kind of looking at all of their hauls, which I felt like they got some really good hauls. I also felt like, despite having gone to 3 different locations to trick or treat, their end results were pretty equal. They all ended up with really pretty similar amounts of candy, I felt like. So I thought that was pretty good, considering, it was 3 different locations, 3 different events that they were at. Fun night. It ended up being a fun night. And then Tuesday, one of the smartest things that I think our school district started doing several years ago now is there is no school for the kids the day after Halloween, which I just think is just a really smart idea. So the kids were all home on Tuesday. Teachers still have to report. It's a professional development day, but they just make it a day off of school for the kids, which I have actually been and taught in a classroom post the day of Halloween. And yeah, the children are tired, distracted. It's just a really good day to take as a professional development day. So that's something our district started doing several years ago now, and I think it was brilliant to decide to do that. What else has been going on? Ooh, there we go. We are, as many of you are aware, it's been quite the 2 weeks. I did get notification about when my friend's funeral is going to be, or memorial service. I obviously will not be in attendance. It's in Hawaii, but that will be the beginning of December. And so I'm thinking about trying to send something that isn't necessarily part of the service, but just something, a nice card, just sharing some of my favorite things about my friend with her husband. having lost loved ones and such, the mail that's always meant the most to me is the stuff that would come in, and there's always so little of it. So little. But it's the things that come in, and it's from the people who share their own memories and share specific reasons why your loved one was special to them. I remember after my mother-in-law died, someone who had been a close friend for years with the family, she did not attend the funeral. She wasn't at the visitation, which is okay. She was not like too far away to be able to come, but she also was not local. And you know, you have a life, you know, so she wasn't at any of those things. But then 2 months later, maybe 3 months later, we got a card in the mail from her with this lovely handwritten letter, just sharing and expressing some of her thoughts and feelings and own emotions about my mother-in-law's passing, sharing a couple of favorite stories. That's the kind of sympathy mail that I want to receive. And so that's the kind of sympathy mail I want to give. And if I don't know the person who passed, but I do know, you know, the family, like when I've had friends whose parents have passed away and stuff too, it's kind of hard because you're never entirely sure what to say, but I want to take the time to make sure that what I am saying is genuine and heartfelt. And I really want to take the time and acknowledge the true gravity of the loss, you know, just how significant that loss is for whoever is getting the mail. So I've been contemplating what it is that I'm going to say to her husband, who incidentally has the same name as my husband. It's a very popular name, so it's not like it's it's not like it's, you know, this 1 in a million name or anything. My husband also has the same name as my father. I've talked about that before. So I did get that information this week, which in a way is kind of nice. It's not that it's closure, but it feels like, okay, the next steps, I guess, maybe, if that makes any kind of sense. And of course, things with the car, they are progressing. The other news that now I can talk about with you, I don't know how long this video is going to be, guys, because we'll see. But I have mentioned before that in the family, we have a rare genetic disease, which I will talk about a little bit right now. It's something I have mentioned, but I've never yet spoken about explicitly. The disease is called von Hippel-Lindau Disease, named after a couple of eye doctors who found eye tumors, and were the first people to kind of put together that, hey, you know, this seems to be an actual disease. You know, we are seeing these same symptoms, and so this is an actual disease. Over the course of time and stuff, it was discovered that actually this disease is a genetic disease and results in far more than just eye tumors. It can result in tumors throughout various systems of your body. It is technically called a multi-system cancer disease. But you can develop tumors, eyes, ears, brain, epididymis, adrenals, pancreas, kidneys, spine. I think I hit the major spots. I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple of them. So it can be a very involved, complex, multi-system disease. The disease that perhaps you have heard of that is kind of similar is NF, neurofibromatosis, and that it is a multi-system disease that results in tumors. VHL, von Hippel-Lindau, is similar in that regard. The diseases are obviously still quite different, but if you're familiar with NF, you kind of can understand then the manifestations of VHL. VHL is a lot more rare than what NF is, which is why odds are, if you are listening to this, you've probably never heard of it. My husband was the first one in his family actually diagnosed with VHL through genetic testing. He had to have been, hold on, I need to sip my coffee. Okay, of course, genome sequencing did not come about until the 90s, early 90s. And when my husband was genetically tested and they had discovered where the marker was on chromosomes, he had to have been among the first in the country to actually get a VHL diagnosis based on DNA. I have nothing that conclusively confirms that except for these two facts. The first one is knowing when genome sequencing occurred and knowing when they found the VHL gene and the timing of when my husband then got diagnosed. And also, so it's kind of, I guess, two facts plus, so parts 1A and B. And then the second fact is my husband was a research patient at the National Institutes of Health, which is our national research hospital system in Bethesda, Maryland. So it was the government that had the DNA work done. Now, they did not do the genome sequencing themselves. They did not have the capabilities by them. That was actually done in Philadelphia. His DNA was sent to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. They cultured the DNA, and then somewhere there, they were able to do the genome sequencing and discover, yes, he does have a damaged VHL gene. But before him, his mother clearly had it based on symptoms, and he had an uncle who passed away just after his 12th birthday who clearly had it based on symptoms. And then my husband had the same symptoms. And so when the NIH was looking back through the family history, it was, okay, we think this is the disease, and let's see if we can do an actual genome sequencing now and get like real confirmation. And so that is what happened. And then my mother-in-law was tested and it came back, and it was the exact same mutation. The word is mutation. Difference in the gene. Same gene alteration, which means, okay, this was an inherited disease. Because my mother-in-law had a brother who clearly had the same symptoms, it's like, okay, then odds are it had to have come from one of their parents. And at the time, both of my husband's grandparents were alive. And it turns out it actually came through his grandfather. They suspect that he probably was the first spontaneous mutation of it. He was asymptomatic his entire life and died from lung cancer because he had started smoking as a child. But he was completely asymptomatic. But the major symptom within my husband's family has been the development of adrenal tumors right around the onset of puberty. And these adrenal tumors are called pheochromocytomas. Our oldest daughter has had bilateral Feos. My husband had bilateral Feos. In my husband's case, he had one full adrenalectomy done when he was 11. And then he had a partial adrenalectomy done when he was 13. Our oldest daughter, just because we knew exactly what we were looking for, and they do go through like set screenings. You know, there's a protocol for, we do MRIs here, we do lab work at this time, you know. She was caught earlier, so she has had 2 partial adrenalectomies. First one was done the summer she was 10, shortly before turning 11. And then her second one was done last year, summer again, shortly before turning 13. So she was 10 and 12 when she had hers. My mother-in-law also had Feos. And as is often the case when you are dealing with rare diseases within family members, my mother-in-law's life was saved because her brother died. Her brother had Feos, and he died on the operating table. They had no clue the kind of tumor they were dealing with at that time. And unless you know and understand this tumor, and especially you have an anesthesiologist who knows what they're doing, you can't just open a person up and remove this tumor. It's a lot more involved than that to keep vitals stabilized. He ended up, I don't remember if he stroked out or had a massive heart attack on the operating table. Either one of those is a possibility. So anyway, my daughter has been symptomatic of having Feos. And that symptoms are hard to diagnose. Feos are still diagnosed post-mortem 50% of the time, just because it's things like vitals that you don't necessarily realize are not normal. So high blood pressure and a fast heart rate are physical symptoms. And then there are some behavioral symptoms that can be involved. Being extra moody, feeling more anxious or even more aggressive, just more agitated. Plus, you can have headaches, sleeplessness, stomach pain. So there's a few things, but all of them are symptoms that could be easily explained by something else. While my children, the older two, my son doesn't yet because he's still young enough, but my older two, they have vitals checks every day at school where they take their blood pressure and check their heart rate, and then they answer a series of questions. And daughter number 3, the school nurse had noticed 2, and then I get those results sent to me and I share them with their hospital as need be, because they have to go to a special VHL clinic. Fortunately, it is no longer National Institutes of Health for us. We are able just to go to the other side of the state. It's still a pain in the butt and it's still expensive and difficult, but at least it's not Bethesda, Maryland. But then I share those results with the clinic as needed as well. But her most recent vitals were coming back. She definitely had higher blood pressure and a higher heart rate. And she had complained several days over weeks of having some stomach pain. Plus, she has not been sleeping well at night. She has been moody and far more anxious, especially out of our 3 daughters. She is our child who is the least anxious of them. She is our happy-go-lucky kid, and she has not been lately. So behaviorally and physically, we had symptoms of Feos. And then family history. She's almost 11 years old. My husband and I were convinced that we are looking at Feo growth again. And her, there's one physician who kind of orchestrates and makes sure that everyone gets to all the right specialists because it's a multi-system disease. You know, my husband has a neurologist as well as, you know, a neurosurgeon and an endocrinologist as well as an endocrinologist surgeon. I mean, it's a multi-system disease. So you have one person kind of in charge of everything to make sure that you get all the right screenings, and all the right appointments are done. So when I was telling him about it and sharing her labs and stuff, he too kind of assumed, yeah, you know, he even wrote and said, I am really sorry to hear this. Yep, I'm going to get the endocrinologist in the loop on this too. We all just kind of assumed. First step is just getting labs done because there are some markers that you can look for. And if those come back abnormal, okay, let's do an MRI. Let's find out, where are these tumors in the adrenals? Is it, you know, how many? Are we just looking at 1, 2? Sometimes you can get multiple adrenal tumors in one adrenal gland. Well, we did learn the other day that her lab results came back normal. I am still in kind of a state of shock. Like, what? But all of the evidence and the family history, it's like, no, she must have Pheo growth. But she doesn't. And again, because the symptoms of these tumors can be explained by other things, that now means, okay, as a parent, I'm now going to dig through what is going on. Well, first clue was last month, just a few weeks ago at parent-teacher conferences. Her 6th hour teacher shared with me that she really loved that she had a couple minutes with just Evie every day, because Evie leaves her 5th hour class a few minutes early to go to the office to do her vitals check, and then she heads to her 6th hour. She adores her 6th hour teacher. 6th hour teacher has 5th hour prep period, so she doesn't have students. So my daughter has been rushing to get her vitals checked so she can quick run off and get a few minutes alone with her 6th hour teacher. Well, what happens when you are rushing to do something? Your blood pressure rises and your heart rate rises. And as, you know, the school year went on and she put together, hey, my favorite teacher doesn't have any students 5th hour. If I hurry up and get my vitals checked done, I can get 3 minutes alone with my favorite teacher. So as she put that together, that's why I started seeing an increase in vital symptoms. Okay, well, that explains that physical side. Then as for like the behavioral stuff, she is at the onset of puberty. Puberty is insanely difficult. She is having a difficult year. She is not adjusting very well to middle school. She is struggling. And between trying to adjust to middle school with the onset of puberty, which affects kids both the same and drastically differently, that can account for all the behavioral changes. So are there still problems here that we need to address? Yes. You know, I've already spoken with her about the importance of, actually, I told her now that when she gets to the office, she needs to sit for 1 full minute and just practice some deep breathing. Just sit for 1 minute, practice your deep breathing, then do your vitals check. And she's agreed to do that. So I'm anxious to see what her most recent readings say. And I will get those probably Monday. The nurse usually sends them out at the beginning of the week. And then, you know, behaviorally and stuff. Obviously, there are things that we can do. There are things that we can talk about. Plus, a lot of it's stuff she's just going to have to work through on her own. You know, and that's the hard part about being a parent and watching your kids struggle, especially at this age where it becomes, no, this is a life skill. They're going to have to learn how to deal with this. They're going to have to figure this out. So that is one of the other major things that has been super, super stressful. There is another health issue within the family that I have been asked to not speak about. So sorry, I can't share that one with you, but this is one that I can share with you and be able to share good news, which since learning about my daughter, I feel much better. It's like, okay, deep breaths. Like I said, I'm still kind of in shock. My oldest daughter last night did come to my husband and me. Really, she went to my husband directly because my husband, he's the one who can relate. He's also had the bilateral PHOs. He has the disease. If you're curious, he has had the bilateral PHOs. He has had laser eye surgery to remove retinal angiomas. He currently does have renal cell carcinomas, which is kidney tumors. He also has 3 or 4 lower spine tumors. Tumors like the renal cell and the spinal tumors, and even like your brain tumors, pancreatic tumors often. You leave those alone until it becomes absolutely necessary to do something. And in his case, he's just living with them. It's not causing any problems. He has had renal cell carcinomas. His first one, I think he was diagnosed with at the age of 16, and he has not yet needed to have kidney surgery. So that's phenomenal. So it just depends on the type of tumor and everything, with the type of treatment that you need and when. But last night, our oldest did come to my husband, almost upset, feeling like, it's not fair. Effie just told me that she doesn't have tumors, that her lab work came back negative. And my husband did say, yeah, it did. And I can understand that you want to be like, why can't you be happy for her? Like, this is really good news. She does not need to have surgery, at least not now. There's a good chance she still will later on, but right now she doesn't. So this is good news. But I can definitely understand that feeling of, yeah, but how come I did? Why was I chosen? Why was I the one to be selected to have to go through these 2 major surgeries, which involves very trying pre-op protocol? You have to be put on certain medications that really messes with you. So, it's not a fun process. Like we were really looking at, our daughter probably would have had to have been out of school for a month because of pre-op stuff. And then, 4 to 6 weeks, she probably would have been out of school just from surgery itself, plus all of the pre-op. And our oldest, like I said, happened to be during the summer both times. So we didn't really have to deal with that. So I can appreciate that feeling of why did I have to go through this and she doesn't? She's so lucky. But after a good conversation, she did leave and actually ran back outside, and I heard her yelling at her sisters, "I'm back." So, at least at that point in time, we had worked through it with her enough that she was okay at that time. So there you go. I kind of completely stopped diamond painting, and it's just because the topic is so serious and I want to make sure that I have the information correct that, I just kind of quit doing this. But that's the information. That is the genetic disease that we're dealing with within the family. It is my husband, and then my 2 daughters and my son are all affected. It's just daughter number 2 and I. It's kind of strange. We're like the oddballs. We don't have VHL, so we're the weirdos in the family. Even though nationally, the other 4 are the weirdos. Or worldwide, the other 4 are the weirdos. If you are interested, I will actually put a link in the notes to the VHL Alliance, which is the international alliance. Again, it's not a super rare disease, but it's rare enough that support groups and things don't really exist beyond having this international alliance. But I will link that in the notes if you are interested in reading more about it. And yeah, there you go. So, like I said, I think this is probably now a very, very long video. And I don't think for a minute I still got through everything that I had intended or wanted to talk about. But I did finally reveal one of the things that I just was not able to speak about yet. And have very happy news at the end of it. So, there you go. Anyway, I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day. Please just practice kindness. Be kind to everyone around you. You don't know the situation they're going through. What I've been through over the last 2 weeks, I have not been the nicest person at times. And so I am very thankful to those who just extended grace to me and were still kind to me when I am sure there are many times when they could have kind of chewed my head off because I was rude or short or something like that. So just be kind. And I really hope that in return, you have a wonderful and blessed day. I will see you again real soon.